All right, welcome to Theology on Tap. Today I want to talk a little bit more about the Old Testament law versus the New Testament Jesus Christ, grace through his death and salvation through Jesus Christ. There's a huge difference. And I know in the last video I complained a little bit about the fact that I think 99% of the Christians in this country or around the world consider themselves Judeo-Christian believers. So they believe in the Old Testament law as well as salvation through Jesus Christ. And I don't think that's necessary as a Gentile, but I think it also hinders our relationship with God. Because, and here's the main reason why, because the law was meant to change our behaviors through the flesh. Because the law only tells us what to do and what not to do, which is, trying to control our flesh, right? So I know Dennis Prager said this many years ago when I was listening to him on the radio. He said that the more you practice the law, the more it becomes part of you. So you change because of the law. And I really wanted to call in and disagree with that, because what Paul says in the scripture is that following the law is impossible. There's a huge frustration about trying to obey the rules and the law of the Old Testament is that we can't keep them. Paul says that the law in itself is holy and good, but when it's applied to mankind, then it actually does the opposite of what it was intended to do. It was intended to bring us closer to God, but what it actually did was it increased sin. All right? Because as Jesus said, if you break the least of the law, you have broken all of the law. So we do our best, right, to beat our bodies to a point where we want to follow every rules and regulations. However, if we miss one or if we disobey, then, you could be filled with guilt, resentment, frustration more than anything else. And I think that is why if you go to Christian church, they have programs every year, throughout the year, and there's revival meetings that has to happen, because you could get close to God at one point at a revival meetings and things like that. But not long after the revival meeting is done, you're back to sinning again. And that brings a lot of frustration. And I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of the young people who was brought up in a church, when they get to be in a college age, they leave, because there is a frustration. They did their best, but it's not good enough. The reason why people leave the church is because, hey, why is it that we can't do so many things in life? Because it really depends on who the police or the enforcers or the pastors or the teachers that you follow. Some people say, hey, drinking is wrong. You shouldn't drink at all. I made a couple of videos last year as I was sipping some, I'll say tequila, all right, as I made the video. And I know a couple of the comments were like, hey, there are a lot of people who are addicted to alcohol. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. There's so many things you got to look out for. And when I was growing up, I had a Jeep CJ5. That was probably my favorite car of all time, because it was my first car. And in the back of my car, I had two stickers. One of them said, I love four-wheel driving. And on the other side, I had a sticker that said, I love Jesus Christ. And one of my teachers came up to me and said, you got to take one of those stickers off, and you have to choose which one. You want to go for the world, or you want to go for Jesus? Because they said they're contradictory with one another. I didn't understand why four-wheel driving was such a sinful thing, but to him, it was. Maybe he really thought four-wheel driving was sinful because it's fun, and fun is not good, or he was just jealous of the fact that I could do things that he has never done before. One or the other, I think he was clearly in the wrong, right? And that's what happens. Judgmental. People become judgmental, critical, right? Because if you are trying so hard to obey the law and you see another person who's failing to do so, then you're gonna get stuck up. You're gonna become judgmental. Or if you are having a harder time obeying the law, then you feel judged by other people. It just doesn't work. It's not just spiritual, in politics and life as well. I don't know why, but some politicians believe as we pass more laws, more of our behaviors will change, right? So if you add heavy taxes on, let's say, cigarettes and what is it, sodas and stuff, then we will be forced to quit. Well, to a certain point, you could say, yes, that is true. But imagine the frustration. Imagine the frustration of people who can't quit. Or imagine the anger of somebody who has to pay 4 times more than what they were paying before. You know, people get angry. I think that's what's going on in Europe right now, in Paris, with the yellow jacket movement, yellow vest movement, which has spread out to England, Canada, and other places, because people are getting tired of others, whoever is in charge, all right, whoever is making the policies, whoever has the authority to make rules and regulation laws into our lives. We could get frustrated because we don't understand why certain things are allowed and certain things are not. All right. So people are rebelling. And that's eventually going to happen if we follow the law. So in the New Testament, Jesus comes along and says, yeah, law doesn't work. There has to be another way. So Paul actually puts it beautifully. He says, you know, the things that I want to do, which is obey God and do good, I cannot do. But the things that I hate, those things I keep on doing. And he says that a few times. And at the end, he said, now, who is going to save me from this wretched state that I am in? So if you're the kind of person that follows the law, then your conclusion definitely is, what a wretched man that I am. You know, what else can I do? Right? And the answer has to be Jesus Christ. And once the answer is Jesus, and you understand it is Jesus Christ, and you find that eternal life with Christ and God, then you gotta get rid of or push aside or make the law obsolete. Because if you go back to, oh, I gotta obey the law now kind of a way, then you're gonna get frustrated again, and you're gonna get back to the what a wretched state that I am in. And I think that's what happens a lot at revival meetings. People that go year after year after year, they're crying and praying out loud because they always get back to their same position in life. What a wretched state that I am in. Who's gonna save me? Jesus Christ. Now stay with Jesus Christ, right? I think that's the whole argument Paul is saying. It get to a point, I think in the book of Hebrews, correct me if I'm wrong, but he actually said, who has falsely informed you of going back to the way you used to be, right? That is through the laws and stuff. Stick with Jesus Christ, because once you go back to the law, it's almost impossible, or it is almost impossible to come back to Jesus and grace of God. Stick with Jesus Christ. And I think that's the main difference. I know that, you know, as Christians, we get critical or judgmental of certain behaviors of people, right? When it comes to abortions, getting drunk, or getting high, or LBGT community, and all the other things that are considered sinful. You know, like some people think dancing to listening to certain kind of music, all those things. And we put it out there telling people not to do these things, right? Knowing the fact that people not only continue to do it, but even the ones that believe all these, you know, behaviors are wrong, you know, a lot of them end up doing the same thing that they don't believe, that they deemed evil, right? They do it. So there's that humongous frustration. So there has to be another way, right? Another way for people's behavior to change. Not forcing them to change rules about all these other things I just mentioned, but having a relationship with God, right? Trust in that relationship with God, and then we shall see what happens. But we should have faith that God, the Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead, is now dwelling in us, and He will lead us in the path of righteousness. I think we should trust that, believe in that, and move on with our lives. In fact, one of my favorite verses in the Bible, when I started the church 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I needed to find a verse that kind of fit our style of what we want to focus on. And I chose Colossians, especially chapter 1, when Paul admits the mystery, right? The mystery, the secret that has been hidden for ages and ages, right? But now is revealed or disclosed to the saints, those of us who have faith, right? And what is that? This is Christianity at its fullest. Right? What is it? That Christ is in you. that Christ is among us. That is it. It's not the law from the outside trying to control, but God's grace that's in us that is able to lead us in that path of righteousness. I love the way Gene Scott actually said it. He said, living a Christian life is just having God that dwells in us to reveal himself, right, through us, to express himself through us, right? So we could become the expression of God. And we need to just have faith that that would happen, that we will follow. Not being judgmental about every little mistakes that we make or the rules that we believe that we're breaking, right? Because that doesn't work. It only leads to frustration and even jealousy, right? It has to be that way. I think it was either Emerson or Haskins who wrote this, and I think it's one of the most beautiful quotes. I'm gonna botch it up, but it goes something like this: you know, what lies behind us and what lies before us is little of value compared to what is inside of us, right? And then he concludes by saying, and if we allow what's inside of us to lead, then miracles will happen, right? So we don't have to, look at all the wrong things that's going on. We need to trust and allow God to express himself through us, and miracles will happen. All right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you have a choice to make. As Christians, you can say, well, I still want to follow the law and I want to believe in Jesus Christ. That's fine, but it's a circle that you're going to go round and round and round. Whereas, and if you could just make the law obsolete in your life, don't think about what is right and wrong. Think more about God that dwells in you, that leads you in the path of righteousness. Have faith in it. And then we'll see what happens, because no one knows what's going to happen. But when it does, it shall be a miracle, right? I think that's the way to be walking in the Spirit of God, to be a Christian, to be an expression of God in this world, right? Then we don't have to be so judgmental. Well, hopefully that makes sense, right? And it works in politics too, That's why I don't like socialism, because that's the way the Democrats are going these days. I don't like it because they're trying to change people's behavior by force through law. It's not going to work, right? We need God in our midst. We need salvation. We need grace. If we allow God to express himself through us, wonderful things will happen. I'm a believer of it. All right. So in a way, you could say I'm a believer that when Jesus Christ returns is when we, express God. Well, we allow God to express himself through our lives, that miracles happen on this earth. So rather than Jesus coming back to destroy all that is evil, maybe he will come back to his own house and we have it nicely made for him to return. That would be better, I would think. Well, anyway, just a thought. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.